Hello, my dear friends. Today is the busiest day of the year for most of us, and having not slept more than 2 or 3 hours a night for the last week or two, I thought maybe I would skip today's drasha, but I felt guilty. So at the last minute, I'm recording a thought that I hope that will be helpful before the Yontif of Pesach. Manish Tana halayla zemikol halaylos. What is the word Manish Tana? What does it mean? Plain meaning of Manish Tana is, why is this night different than all other nights? Because always we eat chametz matzah. This night we only eat matzah. That's the plain meaning of ma, means why. There's another meaning of ma, and that is, as is used in Marabu Ma'asecha, which means how amazing, how great are your deeds. So Manish Tana could be translated as, how different is this night than other nights? And that was the meaning that we had when we recited the Haggadah a year ago, which was just about the beginning of the pandemic. It was a few weeks in. People were dying. Many close friends passed away for all of us. We were quarantined. The shuls were closed. We didn't have our families for Pesach. And when we said Manish Tana, we were thinking about, wow, how different this night is than all other nights. And I think that I said at the time that it's a time to reflect on everything that we take for granted. We assume that our health we take for granted, social relationships, our children, our family, our parnasa, society, shul, everything we just, it's there. And suddenly everything is turned topsy-turvy, and we have to think about Manish Tana. Wow, everything is different this year than it was in the past. We never had a year like we did now. That's what we were thinking a year ago. So ma means how unbelievably different this year is than other nights of the year. This year, I'm thinking the Manish Tana takes on the third meaning, and that is, Manish Tana, in what way is this night going to be different than previous nights? Because the question that we should be asking ourselves, and we're the only ones that could really pose the questions to ourselves, is, how have I changed this year from previous nights and previous years? Having gone through the experience of this pandemic, a once-in-a-lifetime occurrence, in what way, Manish Tana, what is different now than it was a year ago? In what ways have I changed religiously, emotionally, my character, my midos, my relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, my relationship with my fellow man? Manish Tana, what has changed? What is different? And if we've gone through a year of total turmoil, and everything turned topsy-turvy, and we can't think of anything that's different now than it was before, that's really very sad. And unfortunately, that's like pretty much standard. It's human nature that I think originally when the pandemic started, it was like we got an injection of religious fervor, because we knew that it was very dangerous and our lives were in danger, and we were much more careful about things that we said and things that we did and things that we looked at. We exercised super special caution, and we davened with much more feeling. We were davening in our own homes, and we weren't rushed, and we davened with a lot of kavanah. But the tragedy is that all those uplifting moments that we had early on, they seem to have dissipated and gone away. My Rabbi Rav Chaim Shmulevitz always used to say that a human being has a capacity to adjust to a situation. It's a ma'ila and a chesaron. It's an advantage and a disadvantage. He said, as an example, how did the Jews survive? How did those people who were incarcerated in concentration camps, how did they see it was beyond the pale of what a human being is capable of enduring? He said, because eventually things turn from worse to worse, and eventually, even in the most horrible situation, a human being has the capacity to accommodate, to accept the situation and deal with it. That is a maila, it's a strength of a human being, but it's also a chasaran, because it means that we accept status quo. A year ago, we thought we have to be different. We have to change. We have to be on our best behavior. We have to put our best foot forward before our Kadosh Baruch Hu. But as time goes on, so we're just got into the groove, into a routine, and the impact of the pandemic has been minimized over the course of time. Rav Chaim, again, my Rabbi Rav Chaim said that, and many other people have said it, also the same idea. The Gemara says, "Ra'asa shivcha al yam ashelo ro'a Yecheskel ben Buzi." By Kriyas Yamsuf, they said Zek Haley. They were able to point with their finger. It was as if God, who is invisible, as if they could have seen HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and they could point to him. Zek Haley, this is my God. So the Medrash says that even a shivcha, a maidservant, a plain, simple woman, Rasa Masha Lo Ro'a Yecheskel ben Buzi. Yecheskel ben Buzi saw the Ma'aser Merkava. He saw the angels sanctifying the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the heavenly court. It was an unbelievable vision. But at Kriyas Yamsuf, the gates of heaven opened up even more than they were opened when Yecheskel ben Buzi had his prophecy. So Rav Chaim said, Rasa Shivcha Ayam, but in the end, she was a Shivcha. But in the end, she's geblieben a Shivcha. She remained a Shivcha. She was unchanged. She was still, after that experience, she was still a Shivcha. And that's how all of us are. It's not unique to a woman who's a Shivcha. We're all that way. At the moment, wow, this is so amazing. I have to be different. I have to change. I've got to turn around my life. But then as time goes on, the impact dissipates. And it's the strength of human beings that we're able to adjust and accommodate and accept and deal with things, but it's also a disappointment. And of course, it's not, I wouldn't use the word tragedy, because that's the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu made us. That's part of the struggle of being a human being, is that holding on to moments of inspiration and not letting them go, not letting them pass. So as we sit at the Seder this year, I think that we should ask ourselves this question. Maybe that'll give us a booster shot to wake up from a stupor and this state of, well, this is how it is, and this is so we got used to wearing masks. I remember when we started wearing masks, people said, "Are you crazy? Are you kidding? I'm going to sit in a shul for 2 hours with a mask." We thought, at the Tisha B'Av, who's going to be able to go through the davening? Tisha B'Av, it was so long, maybe 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Who's going to be able to sit through the davening on Tisha B'Av with a mask? Who's going to be able to sit in shul on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur for a few hours with a mask? But now, that's how it is. We wear masks. We got used to it. We adjusted to the situation. So let's ask ourselves. Let's try to jar our consciousness and our religious sensitivities, and ask ourselves what should be, I think, a troubling and painful question. That is, Manish, Tana in exactly how are we different this year than we were in previous years? What has changed? And let's try to at least think of one thing that's changed. And if it hasn't changed, let's at least try to make at least one change that this year should be different than previous years. I spoke on Shabbos Hagadol about the phrase in the Haggadah, "B'chol dor v'dor chayva nuliros esaso kilu hu yatsa mi Mitzrayim." Every generation, people have to see themselves as if they went out of Mitzrayim. What does it mean to go out of Mitzrayim? It means that one's life changed. That's really the heart and soul of Yetzias Mitzrayim. It's not just that we became free people and we left the location, we moved to a different look, went from Egypt to the desert. That's not Yetzias Mitzrayim. Yetzias Mitzrayim, it was a transformative moment for Klal Yisrael. They went from being a nation of atheists and non-believers and lowly slaves with no sophistication, and they went to be the Am HaNifcher, the chosen people, Mamlechas Kohanim, the Goy Kadosh. There was a super transformation. that is what Yetzias Mitzrayim is all about. It's the human capacity. If there is a human quality of adjustment and accepting the status quo, there's also a human capacity to turn one's life around. And many people have had experiences, and that was a turning point, because they said, you know what, I cannot continue my life the same as it was before. And that's what we have to strive to find, the way that we could be Yotzei Mitzrayim, that we could go out of Mitzrayim, our own personal Mitzrayim. Everyone has their own Mitzrayim, our own personal Mitzrayim, and change and transform our lives this year on Pesach. So let's try to think of something. I'll give you just one suggestion, and that is maybe we could focus on appreciation, to appreciate what we have, to appreciate the gifts of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to appreciate the fact that we are able to celebrate the Seder this year, and together with our families. Let's think about, look how different this year is than last year. The pandemic is still there, and we're still wearing masks, but now we have the vaccines, Baruch Hashem, and many people are coming out of hibernation. People who haven't been in shul for months, they're back, and times are changing, and we have to, if we have no gratitude to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's not a good thing. So that's just one example, and everybody could find their own example, but there has to be a response. The question, and the reason why we say Manish Tana, everybody points out, why do we ask it as a question? Why don't we just tell the kids, hey, look, this year's different? The answer is because if you want to engage children, you have to pique their curiosity. You've got to ask questions. A good teacher always asks questions. A good teacher doesn't lecture. A good teacher asks questions. And it's not only true of children, it's true of adults. So who's going to ask us the Manish Tana? The kids. When the kids ask us the Manish Tana, but we need to ask it as well. This Manish Tana, there's more than one Manish Tana. There's a Manish Tana of what way am I different this year than previous nights? And at the very least, let's ask the question. At least the question should bother us. The first step in change is that to feel troubled, to feel, you know what, there's something wrong here. There's a problem. I can't just be the same way that I was. It's not possible to live through a year of the pandemic and I'm still the same person. Hayitochen. Hayitochen is such a terrific Hebrew word. Hayitochen means, is it possible? Is it conceivable? How can we remain the same after 12 months of the coronavirus? So when our children and grandchildren ask us Manish Tana, let's think of it as they're challenging us. They're asking us, Abba, Daddy, Saba, grandfather, grandmother, mother. They're asking us Manish Tana, hey, how have you changed this year in a way that's different than previous years? I wish everyone a very wonderful and beautiful Chag Kosher V'Sameach.